welcome to another episode of Cloud Stories, the podcast where we explore the latest trends and developments in the accounting app space. I'm your host of the Cloud Stories podcast, Heather Smith, and today I'm thrilled to bring with you the third interview in our series of interviews from the Accountants Bootcamp. If you haven't already, I highly recommend you check out the previous 2 episodes and subscribe to the podcast to hear the upcoming interview with the inspiring Paul Dunn. At the Reboot event, we were fortunate enough to have attendees and speakers from the original Accountants Bootcamp in the 1990s, including industry legend Paul Dunn himself. Led by Dunn and Ainsley Damery, CEO of Clarity, the 3-day workshop focused on deliverable, repeatable, scalable services that benefit both the firm and the client. Many attendees used the Clarity software platform to assist them in delivering these services. And in case you missed it, Ainsley Damery joined me on a previous episode of the Cloud Stories in May 2021, where he discussed how to double your client's profits in 5 easy steps. Before I introduce today's interviewer, I want to remind you of some ways to stay up to date with the accounting app space. You can join the Xero Mastermind Facebook group, subscribe to the Accounting Apps newsletter at heathersmithau.com, and subscribe to the Cloud Stories podcast. Also, connect with me on LinkedIn. Now, let's get into today's episode. I'm joined by Graeme Tennick, Chief Impact Officer of Tennick Accountants. Tennick Accountants recently won Small Firm of the Year at the Xero UK and Ireland Awards, and a week later travelled 30 hours to attend the bootcamp. This just shows you the calibre of people in attendance at the event. So without further ado, let's dive into the interview and hear from Graeme about his work at Tennick Accountants and his experience at the bootcamp. Welcome to the Cloud Stories podcast, Graeme. I'm so excited to have you here. Can I start by asking you to explain who you are and where you're from?
Not a problem. Well, thank you much for having me on as well. My name is Graeme Tennick from Tennick Accountants in sunny-ish Brisbane.
We're actually on the Gold Coast. This isn't Brisbane.
Oh, okay, there we go. You can see why I got a B in geography. I won't tell you I got a maths because it'd be quite embarrassing. I did do all right maths, just to be clear. So Tennick Accountants, we have been up and running for 11 years. And then we took this almighty, some would call crazy step about 2.5-3 weeks ago to say, let's go to Accountants Bootcamp in Australia. Just round the corner, 33 hours on the plane. Seems like a great idea. Spoke to the wife and she said, well, if you want to go, go. And I was like, you don't ask me twice. And here I am. Fantastic.
I'm so shocked to see you here and come down 2 days ago and see you on the beach. That was quite a shock because you've been filling my social media feed because you have just recently won a Xero award.
Yeah, I have, yeah. Just over a week ago.
Congratulations.
So, thank you very much. It's still a little bit surreal, shall we say, until it haven't happened. I'm yet to get the Xero tattoo on my back, but I mean, I'm waiting for it. I don't think I'll get permission off the wife for that one. But yeah, so just over a week ago, it was in London, picked up a Small Firm of the Year, and it was an amazing night. So head to show for it. But it was amazing, so thank you.
So what was the process leading into, what was your thought process leading into applying for the awards?
So, a little bit before the awards, about a year ago, we shared our vision for the firm. So at our annual client awards, and it was actually a 10th birthday evening, I invited friends, family and clients, booked out the top bar, the tallest bar in Newcastle, booked out the bar area and that. And we shared with everybody, having agreed it internally, what our vision for the firm was in terms of who we were going to be as a firm, what the perfect way in which we'd interact with customers, how it would work for staff, the bigger, wider impact in terms of the wider world with our 360 approach of making the world a better place and how we arrived in it. And as part of that, awards did actually crop up. And I was quite, I don't know if blunt's necessarily the correct word, but I did say we will be going for and looking to win the North East Accountancy Awards, the Xero Awards, and the Accounting Excellence Awards. And again, some of the team says, it's a bit bold to be going for it. I said, yeah, but you can only try. At the end of the day, I mean, there's some great firms in the UK. There's no harm whatsoever in trying, so let's just go for it. So it was about November time last year, I put in the application. And we have had a really, and a key word for Accountants Bootcamp, impactful, yeah. Put in the application, and it's actually a really nice exercise doing it because it forces you to actually reflect. So when you're actually documenting some of the things down you've done, it's like, wow, this is incredible. So we put the application in, and bear in mind we've been using Xero for, we've got 11 years, maybe 7 or 8 of those, and prior to that we were, as many accountants were, desktop-based software. I've been using Xero for quite a while, so when we got shortlisted I was like, wow, this is amazing. It's not like we've done something amazing just based on Xero. We've done amazing things with wider things we've been doing. So when we got shortlisted, I was like, wow, this is incredible. But we're much more progressed in terms of the Xero journey. When we actually won, I was like, this is even better again. So yeah, it was amazing. Amazing we've got you shortlisted. Then to have won again was great credibility to the team, but also to the wider profession. And the reason why we're here at the Accountants Bootcamp is because accountants are pushing boundaries. So we've seen that recognised with further recognition for the team to say, look guys, we're doing an amazing job here. We're heading in the right direction. There's a long way still to go, but well done.
Yeah, well done to you. And I think 2 things to that. One, every stage of entering an award is worthy of feeling really, really good about yourself and celebrating. And even that whole reflection process, depending on how you're running your business, it really gets you to go, oh, next year, it actually gets to you to refine things that potentially you want to do just in that pure reflection process. But wonderful at every stage you got to celebrate that. And the other thing is, what's really interesting about this Accountants Bootcamp is there are a lot of really pushing the boundaries, pushing the digital dirt track, pioneering accounting firms who are here going, what's next?
Well, in terms of pushing boundaries, are you talking about the bar last night when I say the Aussies and the British got together? Maybe pushed a boundary or 2 there, perhaps. It is, and I think back to when I first entered the profession a good few years ago. I mean, I am still at the ripe age of 40, so I mean, I'm still quite young. Although Foxy from Clarity seems to say 30's over the hill, so I'll take that with a pinch of salt. And we bumped into him there earlier. But when I first entered the profession, the idea of accountants just socialising with one another, I wouldn't say it was frowned upon, but wasn't very common. But then there now, with the ethos of what we're actually doing as a profession, the sharing of ideas, and the polite challenging of one another to better one another, in the knowledge of the fact that sometimes we're in direct competition, sometimes we're indirectly in competition, sometimes at the other end of the world, but the just friendly nature of accountants being very, very supportive of one another is something for which, for me personally, makes me feel very proud. I mean, even at the bar there last night, it was quite funny. And I did tell the young lady afterwards, I said, you do realise I have just coached you there. And she gave us a hug. And again, it was just because she was just chatting through certain things in work. And I allowed her to flip those round in a different way to how she was perceiving them. She goes, oh yeah. And it was lovely to do. I mean, as the guys in the office will tell you, I've got any number of cheesy sayings. But one of the big ones I have is either you win or you learn. It's one or the other.
Ooh, I like that. You win or you learn.
You win or you learn. Because
maybe that's the tattoo.
Maybe. But I mean, we'll have struggles, we'll have battles. You could say at times we don't achieve things, but you only really lose if you don't take any lessons from it. So yeah, so you win or you learn.
Absolutely. I do like that. Sounds like that might be the title of this podcast.
I'm on trademarked, copyrighted, all that. We'll agree a contract afterwards, Heather.
Very good, very good. So, one of the things, you've got this accounting practice in the north.
Yes.
Very far north in England, like even northerner than Yorkshire. Which I consider to be the most northern place in England.
And you said I wasn't great with geography.
But from what I understand, the economy in that area has been quite challenged recently. What is it like there?
So if we go back several years here, particularly around the northeast generally, it used to be mining. Mining used to be the traditional industries, and a lot more traditional industries, shipbuilding and things like that. Now,
the Titanic was built out there.
No, we're not that. That was further south. Further south, that one. Unless my history is terrible, but no, I think it was further south. I don't think we play any part in terms of the build, but the mentality that comes with the more traditional sort of industries around that sort of era. And also what I tend to find of the British generally is we are very proud, but similar to accountants generally, we're not very open about things. I say we don't really celebrate our successes. It's a case of we feel proud internally, but don't kind of do that from an outward perspective. So during, and I don't want to keep referring to the pandemic, so let's just go generally over the past several decades,
yes,
and the bruising years and everything else like that. There are some amazing things that have come out of the northeast of England and out of the UK, but we don't sing and dance about it. I cannot dance, by the way, nor can I sing, so I won't be on the stage later on. But I don't think we are vocal enough about what we do, which then often means there is a bit of a dip from a confidence perspective when we should be pushing boundaries a little bit more throughout the UK, and predominantly in the northeast as well. I think to say we're worse than elsewhere in the UK for realising the potential we could realise, again, with our theme for this event, in terms of realising potential. And it is a bit of a shame because it's not down to capabilities. It's not down to capabilities at all. It's just a case of taking that one step forward, that 1% approach, and progress is progress.
Excellent. Can you... So that's really interesting, and the issue of people not being self-promotional,
yes,
and marketing themselves well is it runs through the world. Can you circle back and give me an outline of your business, what it looks like, and what sort of clients it services? And we don't want to be hit by this golf buggy.
No, yeah, this is where the microphone might.
That's a very fast golf buggy.
Where's the speed camera? That's somebody not lacking in confidence, is it? Does it go around the corner on two wheels?
No, the lady looks a bit worried.
Yes, she was hanging on by the side. Hope she's insured. So our firm, I won't send any listeners to sleep by telling the full story, but our firm was predominantly built, as many other accountancy firms were established at first, on the compliance-based manual model. We then transitioned to the cloud-based model, doing compliance-based tasks. We then transitioned to the cloud-based model, doing compliance and non-compliance-based tasks. And now I'll try only to use the term advisory just the once. But we are now a more progressive firm, working with business owners as far and with as many as what we possibly can to establish and say, look, nobody set up in business just to save tax. I mean, I joke on something about throwing tax parties in terms of, we've paid records about tax, woohoo, let's celebrate and say that's something for which you should...
That's an ibis, and it's forming a nest back there, typically.
We've got ibises in the UK, but the hotels, so it's not... So we try to push boundaries with business owners to say, look, you didn't set up business just to save tax. You want to actually kind of create something. It might be a case of a better work-life balance, it might be a case of greater earnings, it might be a case of building something really special. So now what is my greatest passion is to sit down with a business owner and say, look, where are you? Where would you like to be, and how can we help you get there? But then off the back of that, you then start creating like a vision board, and then you start seeing people realise it. So last year, one of my proudest achievements towards the back end of last year, we're sending 3 business owners to Lapland, just off the back of guiding them with their business. Their business developed, they could afford to take their kids to Lapland, and then these same clients, they're literally hugging you because of how close you've got that relationship. And you're seeing pictures of them taking their family, you're seeing Santa, and it's just incredible because it's one of the most fulfilling things you could ever possibly imagine from doing something for which I think the profession is duty bound to provide.
Absolutely. We need you to set up the marketing campaign to get more people into the industry, don't we?
I could try my best, but you're probably going to have to put subtitles onto this podcast, so I'm not sure I'm best equipped. If you have somebody kind of just translating for me, we might have...
I can understand you this morning. Last night I was struggling.
Thanks very much. And you even suggested we do this last night, and I was all up for that.
I was going to have hand signals to slow you down.
Yeah, well, as long as it was polite hand signals.
It was going to be. Excellent. So, so you're here at the Accountants Bootcamp. Before I do that, talk to me about the technology that you're using in your firm.
Okay, so the term I often get associated with, because I've used it in a couple of talks that I've done, is I have previously got software drunk. And that goes back to, let's try and get the year right, was it Xero 2017 or Xero 2018? And when we first started on the technology journey, I did get rather excited because, I mean, bearing in mind at that time I was very much Excel oriented, desktop software, all that sort of jazz.
Who doesn't love a good spreadsheet?
We can't say that when we get back to the bootcamp. I think it's like mentioning the word staff and getting fined. So I did quite like that, but often it was internal excitement, not something which would ever really get clients off their seats.
Yeah. Now, we should probably spin around so I don't steal you too far.
No, that's all right. So when I went to XeroCon 2017 or 2018...
And this is in the UK?
This is in the UK, yeah.
And you made it that time?
I did make it that time. There was no issues with rail lines or anything like that. I did actually make it. It was in November, mine, so I mean the temperature's slightly different November to June. Or July, sorry, I think it was, the last one where we couldn't get down because of the weather. So I went there and I just fell in love with the software because all of a sudden I seen bright colours and lines from charts, which I immediately skipped several steps and thought, ooh, clients are going to love this. All of a sudden they're going to see all of this and they're going to just fall in love and they are going to want to pay us to do all these extra add-on services and it's just going to be so exciting. I sound like that lady off American Pie this one time at Bootcamp. Hopefully not with the lady's voice. I hope this is a bit more masculine for the listeners. So I fell in love with it. And then all of a sudden, I bought 50 licenses.
Oh, my Lord. They must have loved you.
Oh, that was just one software. I bought other things as well. Because bearing in mind, of course, when you have a look, it's like, oh, well, it's one license for £25 or 50 licenses for £100. Well, you need to get this here. You need to upgrade, don't you? So I bought a few other bits and bobs. And I got carried away. Since then, and I can go into specific bits of software, but since then, we now have a 3-step approach with software. Ooh. Because I was railroading software to the point whereby clients and staff weren't quite ready for it. In the words of someone in our office, and I'm sure you'll appreciate this, said we don't quite have the foundations right. Mm-hmm. So now our 3-step approach with any bit of software is we go through a research stage, go through a prototype stage, and then we go through an implementation stage. And often those 3 stages are not managed by me because a lot of the answers to those different stages of implementation, research and prototype need to be led by the team because they know what I don't know and they'll be seeing things which I don't see. So whilst I would be involved and say, look, I see there's a potential opportunity here. So I mean, some people look at this Telaroo. I say, look, I think there's a potential opportunity here. I would welcome your input and then I empower the team to take things with some input from me to say, well, what about this? What about that? And then they lead on it, which I find far more beneficial. How big is the team who's making the assessment? The team at the moment is 9 staff in total.
Wow! So 9 people are assessing whether the solution is viable.
So what we do is there's a brilliant book called Scale at Speed by Felix Villard. So with that, you segment what your annual goals are, which again are determined by the team collectively. Mm-hmm. And again, obviously, naturally, I will suggest things and will agree that. So I will drive things forward to an extent in terms of an outline.
Yes.
But then what we do is we segment the different tasks which need to be completed in order to get us to our goals. Now, by segmenting those tasks, if, say, for example, there was a piece of software that we were going to look to implement, among the team we will decide who's going to be the champion of that software, then that individual will be the one responsible for driving that forward. And then they will rely on other members of the team to support them in, obviously, the various stages. So it might be a case of, whilst they will lead the overall project, perhaps the initial research stage might be completed by Georgia. Mm-hmm. The prototype stage might be best off delivered by Treveni. The actual implementation stage might be better off delivered by Andy. So they will just oversee the project and they will lean on the best members of the team suited to each individual aspect. Uh-huh. And then obviously it just empowers everybody to kind of contribute in ways for which they are best suited. So
let's pick a solution that everyone's kind of familiar with. Dext or Receipt Bank. How long, like if we were to do this again, we're starting at the beginning, how long from start to finish would that process take people?
Well, that was probably one of the easier ones. The reason why it was one of the easier ones is a bit like Xero. It was one for which didn't take any real education with the team.
Yeah.
And because we were already transitioning to a paperless office, the team got it really, really easily. Now, I don't want to do any disservice to Dext because I think there's a lot of work which goes on behind the scenes which is often missed. But because the training provided and the guidance documents were quite straightforward, all of that was presented to the team to say, look, clients as a whole would love a more slicker system in terms of paperwork. We as a firm would like the same too. Here's a solution. Now, in order to do that thereafter, which again is where it made the whole task significantly easier, was this is being introduced for all clients, rather than dip in, dip out in various alternatives. it was Dext and that was it. There was
Yes.
no alternatives, there was no manual, it was a case of it's coming in across the board. So it meant there was no uncertainty, there was no people that kind of have a little bit of involvement this week, then they won't have any more involvement for 6 months further on down the line. So that there was probably, alongside Xero, although Xero is a little bit more in terms of training sort of side things, was probably the easiest bit of software we implemented. But again, the steps were set in place for us as a result of Dext and the needs of the business owner, because the business owner too was kind of very much on board. They say, I get it, I know why you're doing this, let's go for it.
So can you you've not given me a time range there.
So that Dext, I believe we implemented within maybe a matter of weeks.
Wow.
So maybe 6 weeks. 6 weeks if I was kind of being a little bit awkward. About 6 weeks I would say it was not fully working perfectly, because that takes longer.
Yeah, it's refinement.
Yeah.
Yeah, excellent. I think it's really useful for people to hear how long it can take, how long they need to allow to take it, and what things they actually need to work through and in thinking about taking it.
Yeah, but there are other bits of software whereby there's been lots of bumps along the way, and it's been over a year. So, I mean, we've used Carbon, and I absolutely love Carbon, which is an absolute animal. But we did a lot of things wrong with that. We had a lot of resistance. I did several things which I could have done wrong with the implementation of that software. But that was also the software which made us learn so much. So that in that instance there, that was one where if I'd managed the implementation, had the team driving that forward a little bit sooner, and got the dedicated resource I did to champion that a little bit sooner, and mapped it all out, we would have progressed a little bit quicker.
What did you learnt about implementations, not about practice running? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, implementation for me was done by the wrong person.
Okay.
If I was to say one lesson, driven forward by the wrong person. The idea had to be presented, but then to empower the people that are going to be using it more frequently is such a simple concept. And I can remember in the Xero training initially, whereby they often said about having people champion things.
Yes.
And I didn't consistently do that across the board with other pieces of software, and I should have.
Yeah. No, that is really important. It's important to have a champion, but also protect the champion from the people who are negative about the whole move.
Yes.
That they have to, deal with it, but be somewhat insulated from that in ways that they
Definitely, yeah.
they can sort of keep existing and going through life. So, really exciting to hear about you're using Carbon. And were you excited about the integration that they've just recently announced?
Well, so what I've tended to find, and again, it's perhaps something for which I've, again, learned a lesson or two. There's several, due to the APIs, various bits of software, there are APIs which have the integrations there, but they don't often do exactly what you want to do. And following a brilliant conversation with Guy Pearson from Ignition a while ago, I hadn't quite appreciated what goes into API integration. So Ignition's got an integration to Carbon, but for the majority of people, it would do the job. It didn't quite do what we wanted to do. So I'm going to use the E word again, Excel. I mapped out quite a while ago, and I went through this with the team, in terms of what our process maps need to look like with the various bits of software we needed. And from there, we have manually overridden several aspects to make sure it works for us. So, for example, when a client signs up through Ignition, we have turned the API off with Carbon because we want several steps to manually kind of happen, for which, totally appreciate, we're just one client. The integration doesn't actually allow for that. So by doing what we've done, we've used Zapier to have different parts of the step automatically kicking into play. So that's where, for us, I'm not going to say I don't like when I hear about the new integration and things like that.
Yeah.
But being where we are on the journey, sometimes they are helpful, but more often than not, we've already tailored the steps a little bit more than what an integration would allow. But it's lovely to hear the integrations there. But I do think / fear perhaps we're at such a position there now with accountants and technology whereby we're hitting a little bit of a buffer, and I think that buffer is in two different ways. So the first buffer for me is you have the progressive firms that have been using the software for quite a period of time. Then you've got those where they're still dipping their toes in the water, and you've then got those that maybe don't want to. Now, because again, let's be brutal about it, the money's being made by those people that are already committing to the software. The software companies are in a little bit of a sticky position because they maybe don't have the new influx of money to progress the software further, because those people are still wanting to dip their toes and what are not wanting to progress are not coming forth. So there's no real new money to keep investing to do new things, which is also meaning some software companies are sadly having to drop out of, no longer be in business. You've then got, again, on the monetary side of things, in terms of where firms actually are, because there isn't this new influx of money into these companies, the evolution of these same software platforms, again, has significantly slowed down because they kind of keep investing in something because they've got the same money they've always had, and the cost of just maintaining that platform are higher than what they ever have been. So I think you've almost got this little bit of a challenge for which I've got a lot of sympathy for software companies, because the main holes have been filled in terms of what accountants and business owners really need. But now you've got accountants screaming to say, look, we really need something more. We need this to be doing this, this, this and this. But then the software companies are saying, look, this is really hard for us there now, because to make this pay and to make this what you want it to be, I'm just not sure how we can make it viable. So I think it's tough. It's very tough.
Yeah, it is. And I think you kind of hold the same sympathies that I do for these software companies, in that we see them trying to sell to us, but they're also small businesses, and they're also navigating their own cash flow and what's going to be the best return on investment for them. And we need to be mindful of that. And it sounds like you're the type of person who or your firm get in early and give feedback.
Oh yeah, we do. I'm quite fortunate as well to be part of something called the Early Adopters Hub.
Yes. Tell me about that.
So with the Early Adopters Hub, I'm really passionate about developing software. I say developing software, contributing towards development of software. I have no coding experience, so just in case any software companies reach out, that's not my skill set. But I'm really passionate about seeing software companies grow, develop and see what comes out the other side of things. So when I was invited into the Early Adopters Hub, which might be nearly 3 years ago now, it was a little while back, it was really interesting just to see what the roadmap was looking like for new software companies to come to the market, existing software companies wanting to evolve in terms of different changes they want to make. So what we do is we sit down and software companies say, look, this is what we're looking to do, what's your thoughts on it? They can then build it out and we can test it, then they can obviously kind of potentially take it to market. And it's really, really interesting and fascinating. And this is where you often hear, because it's directly with the business owner, you'll actually hear from them and say, look, this is or isn't going to work. And then you test and say, that's all good, but this is your competition here. And it's exciting, it's empowering, but also it's quite hard. It's never been harder. I think it's the whole cloud-based journey and the opportunities for people coming to market, it's not what it was.
Yeah, it's a headwind at the moment.
Definitely, yes.
Rather than a tailwind. So I think we can go over that way. So, we've been at the Accountants Bootcamp. You're out here for 3 days.
Yes.
We had the first day yesterday. What did you get out of yesterday? And what are you hoping to get out of the event?
I got a good night's sleep. So what did I get out of yesterday? The main thing I find with several different events, but certainly with this one, again, is about pushing boundaries with other progressive firms. What I really enjoyed more than anything else yesterday was the refinement of things. So Paul Dunn said a number of things which I found just absolutely fascinating. And it's about the changing of, obviously, where accountants are, where business owners are, and positioning that in such a way whereby we can really add value. And then one of the key words I know I touched on before was potential. So when you're able to identify the potential in a business and demonstrate business owner, you needn't have to accept where you are, and you can make, another word from yesterday, such an impact. It just reinforces it, but it also kind of makes you have a look at the DNA of a business to recognise that this isn't something for which you can have inconsistently across different bits of your business at different points in time. You've got to have it throughout the whole business. And once you've got that among the team, among everything that you do, then also to the point whereby it's maybe the 1% improvements that will just kind of kickstart things, you'll really take off. So I mean, the way I'm segmenting this, I have got 3 pages of notes. We're on day 1, so I'm imagining a few more. As I kind of sense the team listening to this in a cold sweat, I will then condense all of this down into probably not more than 3 main tasks, and then maybe 6 or 7 sub-tasks, just to obviously kind of see us going through. But once we had those aspects there in the talks, then had a chat with various members who are here on the day in terms of the implementation side of things, I'm already starting to create that roadmap. Now that roadmap to then be taken back to the team and just say, right, okay guys, what do you think? Then to see the impact so they can see the case studies. I mean, the florist story I thought was phenomenal. It's for them to see the case and say, look, this is what's happened there. What do you think? Then I think we'll start getting pretty excited.
Yeah, look, I'm just so impressed that how many cutting-edge firms are at this event and how they are so engaged with the event. And I do think there is merit in completely discombobulating yourself and putting yourself on a 35-hour flight and messing up your whole body and time clock and just turning up in a room of people that you've never met before, most of them. I think you've met probably 5 of them before, and absorbing and having this electricity go out from everyone. So that's really brave of you to do that. A big risk, and I think the rewards will be good.
But I think off the back of that, sometimes you've got to take that leap of faith and make such a significant step, because I could have went to a conference down the road, not the accountants bootcamp was on down the road, but because it's such a big commitment, it's literally put me in a position where this has to work. So, I mean, I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but nobody else is listening around us. So I know we've got to make one commitment in terms of what this is going to take. But this event is going to pay for us as a family to take the kids to Florida next year. There's no way I'm sat in front of the kids. The kids have been without us for a week. There's no way I'll be sat in front of them next summer saying we're not going to Florida. So as far as I'm concerned, the cost of this trip has taken a little bit of a dent out of the Florida pot. But it's going to add such an amount to it. I'm going to be sat down next year and say, kids, you know that trip to Australia, that contributed towards this trip to Florida?
Yeah.
And that alone is such a driving force in my mind. This won't do anything other than succeed.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that doing things like this step you up another level. And sometimes it's like we step up by kind of going to university or finishing a qualification or winning an award, and you're actually powering through because you've just got a few things all happening at once, but it's going to have a massive step-up impact for you. And people are going to give you a platform and they're going to listen to you, which is also really exciting.
Yeah, I hope so, because again, for me, we can only do this collectively as a profession, and the voice of a handful of individuals is not going to make the impact we really need to make. But accountants have never had such an exciting and powerful role to fulfil. So if we can use whatever platforms we have, whatever contacts we have, to really project that message to business owners to say, look, you don't have to accept where you are, you can be better. What you don't have, you could potentially gain. What skills you don't possess, you could train and develop and everything else like that. To really see that potential realised is, like I said a couple of times, one of the most exciting and fulfilling things for which we can be proud to contribute towards.
Absolutely.
And with that in mind, I think it's never been such an exciting place to be, but we must do it in a collaborative sort of way, as we are doing there today in terms of sharing insights, thoughts. But I would love nothing more than to be getting together as a group again, so further down the line, to share more success stories. Off the back of this, we did that client achieved this, I achieved that.
Yeah.
I couldn't be more thankful for this moment, because life's short. Let's make the most of it.
Absolutely, and find joy and travel to Florida.
I hope so. Well, actually not hope so, we are.
We are, absolutely. Graeme, thank you so much for joining me on the Cloud Stories podcast. Is there anything else you'd like to leave with our listeners, and how can they get in contact with you?
So the message I would like to leave with is a line that I started with a little bit earlier, and I'd like everybody just to think of the line, we either win or we learn. And I think it's a very positive way to look at an outlook on life, generally. If anybody wants to get in touch with me, say my name's Graeme Tennick. If you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, if they would like to send me an email, it's Graeme. I'll spell that correctly because there are easier names to spell. That's Graeme at Tennick, TENNICK.co.uk. But Graeme Tennick, LinkedIn, if you want to drop me an email, I'd love to connect, love to collaborate, help out as much as I possibly can, and let's, as a profession, make a difference to make this world a better place than the one that we arrived in.
Thank you so much. It's been an absolute joy having you on the show, and I'm sure our listeners will learn a lot from you, and I'm sure a lot will get in contact with you.
Thank you for asking me.
Cheers. I hope you like listening to that interview with Graeme Tennick, Chief Impact Officer of Tennick Accountants. Get in touch with me and let me know what you think of this series of interviews from the Bootcamp. And make sure you subscribe for next week's episode with the legend Paul Dunn, who I assure you does not fail to disappoint. Also, you can go back and listen to the interview I did with Ainsley Damery back in May 21. The episode was How to Double Your Clients' Profits in 5 Easy Steps. You've been listening to the Cloud Stories podcast. If you like this episode, please share it with a friend who would benefit from listening. Plus, join the Xero Mastermind community on Facebook and stay up to date with the latest trends and developments in the accounting apps space. Be sure to subscribe to the Informative Accounting Apps newsletter at heathersmithau.com. Also, I invite you to connect with me on LinkedIn. This is Heather Smith, signing off until next time. Awesome. Okay, so this is my thing that notifies me that I'm recording. That's your microphone. Just be super casual. It's always recording, okay? Just be super casual with it.
That's all right.
And that's up there. We'll get out and we'll start.
Yep.
And it's okay, like if you see a kangaroo, you can react to that, okay? It's
as long as I keep hold of the microphone, I don't go,
oh. Well, don't hit the kangaroo with the microphone.
What's the range on these, just in case I see a snake and I run with it? And all of a sudden, the range is too far gone. You've gone.
No. It's recording in there. It's all it's saying is it's recording. See, it's the red.
Oh, right,
recording,
yeah.
Okay.
Right, okay.
So it's still recording.
Right, okay. Because if I do see a snake right next to it, I'm not being funny. I'm not going to still be stood next to you.